book of Matthew, chapter 4. The temptation of Jesus. Then Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. Tempted by the devil. Okay? Pay attention. After he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry. Very hungry. Right? So then the tempter approached him and said, "If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become bread." Just tell them to become bread. He answered, Jesus, answered, "It is written, man must not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God." Okay? Man must not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God. Okay? Then the devil took him to the holy city, had him stand on the pinnacle of the temple, and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, He will give His angels orders concerning you, and they will support you with their hands, so that you will not strike your foot against a stone." Then Jesus told him, "It is also written, do not test the Lord your God." You guys know what happened here? There's a lot going on here. So Jesus went into the wilderness, and there he fasted, which means he didn't eat, for 40 days and 40 nights. And he was really hungry. And because he was really hungry, the devil decided to come try to attack him. Not attack him like punch him in the face or kick him in the stomach, right? Attack him spiritually inside. Attack his mind. Attack his heart. Yeah, maybe bad, like a bad dream.
Like an evil?
Like an evil, that's right. So they call him the tempter here. And the tempters approached him and said, "If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become bread." Basically saying, "Oh, well, if you're so tough, why don't you just turn anything into food and eat it? You can turn anything into food and eat it. Why don't you just turn anything into food and eat it?" That's what the devil was telling Jesus. And Jesus said that man must not just eat bread. Okay? He must not live on bread alone, but he must live on the words that come from the mouth of God, which means that you're supposed to have faith. That's what he was telling the devil, that man must have faith, not just be hungry for food, but have faith to believe in God. And because he believed in God, that God was going to take care of him and take care of the situation, he wasn't worried about food. He was worried about not doing what God said to do. Okay? That's what Jesus was worried about. So then, hold on. Then the devil took him to the holy city, had him stand on the pinnacle of the temple. So that means he had him stand in a very high place. Okay? Very high place in the temple. And said, "Throw yourself down, jump off. Jump off this tall building." The devil wanted Jesus to jump off the tall building. Why did the devil do that?
Because you want to kill him?
Absolutely. No, not be the king, but so that's from the story before. He wanted to try to trick Jesus because he was a trickster, right? So he wanted to trick Jesus to jump off the building and kill himself. And he said, "Don't worry, God will take care of you," right? But what did Jesus say?
No.
Jesus said, "Don't test the Lord your God." That means you don't, just because you think that God's going to save you or something like that, you don't do that. You don't test God and say, "Oh, well, I'm going to jump and see if God saves me." We don't do that. Jesus doesn't do that, okay? And Jesus knew that his Father would not want him to test him. Make sense? Okay. Again, the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their splendor. And he said to him, I will give you all these things if you will fall down and worship me. So after Jesus told him he wasn't going to jump off and that nobody should test God, the devil then said, well, why don't you worship me instead? Worship me, not God, and I'll give you all these kingdoms and all these wonderful places here on earth. And then Jesus told him, go away, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve only him. So Jesus knew who his God was. Why would he fall down and worship Satan? Is Satan God? No. Is Satan Jesus' God? No. So Satan wanted to trick Jesus into worshiping him and saying, I'll give you all these things. Then the devil left him, and angels came and began to serve him, Jesus. Okay?
The devil served
No,
Jesus?
the angels came. After the devil left, because he knew that he had failed and that he couldn't trick Jesus, he left. He ran away. And then angels came and began to serve Jesus. Okay? Ministry in Galilee. When he heard that John had been arrested, he withdrew into Galilee. So during this time, John the Baptist got arrested. Okay? He left Nazareth and went to live in Capernaum by the sea, in the region of Zebulun and Naphtali. This was to fulfill what was spoken through the prophet Isaiah. Land of Zebulun and land of Naphtali, along the road by the sea, beyond the Jordan, Galilee of the Gentiles. The people who live in darkness have seen a great light, and for those living in the land of the shadow of death, a light has dawned. So for all the people living in the land of the shadow of death, there's a light that's arrived, and that's Jesus Christ. Okay? From then on, Jesus began to preach. So now Jesus is teaching. So we learned all about Jesus. We learned about who was saying he was going to come. We saw all the prophets saying that there's going to be someone very great that's going to come. We saw what happened when he was born and the king wanting to get rid of him. And he somehow survived because they escaped into Egypt. And then he came back. Right? Came back. And now we're learning that, he starts preaching. Which means he's going to start preaching and teaching people about God. So now we're not hearing about just John the Baptist. Now we're going to hear from Jesus himself. Okay? So, let's see. So from then on, Jesus began to preach, repent, because the kingdom of heaven has come near. The first disciples. As he was walking along the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, who is called Peter, and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the sea because they were fishermen. Okay? What were they?
Fishermen.
Good job. Excellent. 19. Follow me, he told them, and I will make you fish for people. Immediately, they left their nets and followed him. He said, follow me, and I will make you fish for people. It means try to gather people, right? Because fishermen catch fish, right? But if he says, I will make you fish for people, that means I'll make you gather a whole bunch of people. Make sense?
Is God speaking?
Yes, Jesus. Okay? Going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James, the son of Zebedee, and his brother John. They were in a boat with Zebedee, their father, preparing their nets, and he called them. Immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him. So now we have several people following Jesus. Teaching, preaching, and healing. Now Jesus began to go all over Galilee, teaching in their synagogues. Synagogues were the places of worship, like the temples or churches back then. Okay? Now Jesus began to go all over Galilee, teaching in their synagogues, preaching the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and sickness among the people. So he was healing people from being sick, healing people from disease. He was just performing a bunch of miracles for all to see that he was God. Okay, that he was the Messiah, the one that was promised by all the prophets before. Okay? Then the news about him spread throughout Syria. So they brought to him all those who were afflicted, those suffering from various diseases and intense pains, and the demon-possessed, the epileptics, and the paralytics, and he healed them. So when people found out that Jesus was doing all these miracles and healing all these people, they were like, wow, my goodness, let's take all of these sick people to Jesus and see if he can fix them, if he can heal them. And Jesus miraculously was healing everyone. So everyone who came to Jesus was being healed. No matter what sickness they had, he was able to heal them. Everyone. Okay? Hold on. And he healed them. Large crowds followed him from Galilee, the Decapolis, Jerusalem, Judea, and beyond the Jordan. And that's it. We've read through chapter 4. There'll be more, but we're done for now. Okay? Any questions? There's probably a lot of questions.
Well, this one. When it said that Jesus was able to heal everyone, no matter what sickness it was he only healing the people that believed in him and that were really sick, or everyone?
That is an excellent question. Very good question. Very thoughtful question. As we read on, we're going to find out more about that question, because the book of Matthew talks about all those situations. But sometimes Jesus healed people because he offered them grace, which means that sometimes, even though they didn't believe, or maybe they're very strong in belief, he basically took the first step to help them. So he might have helped them just to make them understand who he was. But for the most part, Jesus always healed people who believed in him, because it showed that they had faith. And that's what he wanted people to have, is for them to have faith in him and in God. So that's a great question, and once we read more, there'll be many points that cover that question. Okay? Good job. You have any questions?
No.
No questions?
No.
Not even one?
Let me see. So, I have one question.
Oh, okay.
So, you know the evil tree of apples?
Yeah. What does that have to do with the story?
You know that snake? Isn't that evilness coming into heaven?
Into the world?
In heaven?
Into the world? Yes, that was evilness, or evil in the world, yes. So, I know what you want to know is when Adam and Eve were on earth, when they were first placed on the earth in the garden, the devil was already there with them too.
Yeah.
So that's how they knew and they learned. But that's a different subject, so we'll leave that one alone. Okay, we'll talk about that one some other time.